Okay, we're used to seeing players getting ejected from basketball games, but fans, now that is unusual unless you're a Mavs fan, maybe still bitter over Luka's trade.
We know so many of them are. Now, chances are that by now you have seen the viral clip. It's a fan being escorted out of last night's game. Bo Evans caught up with a guy who yelled at Mark Cuban, and Bo, that fan says he doesn't think he broke any rules.
No, Karen, he does not think he broke any rules. Chris Taylor is a Mavs season ticket holder, and he thinks he knows the NBA Code of Conduct policy pretty well, and he says he's just voicing his opinion. He didn't violate any rules. Now, Taylor says he was planning on going to the game to share his opinion on losing Luka, but he wanted to be strategic about it and make sure he didn't violate that league code of conduct policy. Ironically, he told me he didn't want to be thrown out of the game. He did admit he was loud the whole game, but he says 90% of the time he was just cheering for the Mavs. However, towards the end of the fourth quarter, while the Mavs were shooting free throws, he told me he thought that was the right moment to let his voice be heard.
I turned around at one point to our section and started doing this, "Fire, Nico." And then when I turned around, Mark Cuban had stood up out of his chair and turned around and started yelling at me. He pointed at me and looked right at me and said, "Sit down. Sit down."
Taylor said Cuban kept yelling at him, and that's when he and Cuban began yelling back and forth at each other. And it was after that interaction when security stepped in and escorted Taylor out of the AAC. Now, here's what Cuban told us via email. "I didn't care what he was saying it the whole game. I cared that fans were booing him while we had the ball in crunch time or were shooting free throws. The time when they should be silent or cheering for the Mavs. I had no say about who got kicked out. I turned back to watch the game. I spent about 20 seconds interacting with him." Now, Taylor said he hasn't heard from the Mavs, but that he is worried that he might face further punishment for being ejected from the AAC, but this may shock you, he doesn't think that he should. At the AAC, Bo Evans, CBS News, Texas.
I think a lot of people might agree. All right, Bo, thank you very much.